water-wise, our city manager wants to make sure that
Weddy is there.
Weddy is here.
So Weddy's listening.
Weddy.
I missed Weddy last.
So hopefully Weddy will be here. Then we'll do, we go down to our city manager report, sir.
Thank you, Mayor McCaw, members of council. Reminder, as probably everybody is aware right now, the Fry Sewer project has gotten underway, and that little stretch of Fry will be closed until April 23rd. A reminder to folks, please not to use the Ace parking lot as a shortcut. That's probably not a good place to be. And I'll ask the chief, maybe somebody can sit out and do some reports and watch over there, because I'm hearing that on the street. So the sales tax report came in for February, and the good news is it points green, albeit only by 1%, but that's better than red, so we'll take that for now. And then I'll be attending a CCOM board meeting Thursday morning. That's at 8 over at CCOM budget, and then we're still working through the transition of HR and fiscal agency by the end of the fiscal year, so I'm sure those will be major topics. And I'll inform you about that, and then I'm sure I'll have some other projects by Thursday.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments for city manager? All right, we'll move on. And we have a public hearing. So we have item number 3, resolutions 2025-025, the general plan amendment for land use map 1, and staff report, Mr. Fisher.
All right, thank you, Mayor McCaw, members of council. I'll be up here for both item number 3 and item number 4, as these two are sort of a package presentation for a rezoning and a general plan amendment that's being proposed. So there'll just be one presentation.
Got it.
Okay. Today we have a proposal for a general plan map amendment and rezoning proposed for 2 properties, 100 and 102 North First Street. The applicant is the Cochise College Foundation, and they seek to build a single-family residential home on each of the 0.19-acre properties. However, the properties are zoned for general commercial use currently, and they reside within an area designated as commercial in the Vista 2030's land use section. They are applying to change the zoning to manufactured home residential, like the zoning to the properties to the north and the west, and the underlying land use designation to high-density residential. The foundation, which provides construction training to students while building single-family affordable housing, as seen with their projects in Solgar and in Frytown, were unaware of the zoning and land use restrictions of the 2 properties at the time of their purchase, as they were marketed as residential. This is likely because all developed properties currently addressed off this block of North First Street are residential in nature, as well as the fact that the 2 subject properties contained a manufactured home residence until 2015, when it was demolished. This commercial zoning designation was inherited from Cochise County when the property was annexed into the city in 1997, as is statutorily required that we take the closest zoning and general land use when we annex the property. And the property back then was also being used as a residence at that time. Staff has received no commercial interest in developing the vacant parcels since the previous home's demolition, and the sites currently as they are and how small they are would be difficult to develop, noting the required buffers and setbacks as they're adjacent to residential. Property owners within 500 feet of the 2 subject properties were notified at a neighborhood meeting, which was held on March 6th by the applicant. No public comments were received. Planning and Zoning Commission approved both the rezoning and the general plan amendment unanimously with a vote of 4-0. This concludes staff's report for item 3 and item 4.
Excellent. Any questions for item 3 or item 4? So how are we going to do that? Do we lump them 2 together? No.
Is it?
Go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you mean when we motion to
Yeah, we
open
would
it?
motion to open it.
Public
'cause
hearing.
one is for the land use and one is for the actual,
Yeah.
the
2 separate items.
Yeah, so 2 separate votes. We'll just have to read this. He
Read
doesn't
it.
need to do his
Yeah.
presentation. Yeah.
Got it.
gotta do it twice.
All right, so we'll go to item number 5. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Item number 5, Resolution 2025-026, conditional use permit for 100 Casey Drive. Staff report, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor McCaw, members of council. Okay, so for a little bit of context, this is an amendment to this is an amendment resolution for a previously approved conditional use permit that was done back in 2006 for Catholic Community Services. So that's a little bit of context for this one. In 2006, Catholic Community Services, located on 100 West Cayeton Drive within City's West End, received an approved conditional use permit through City Council that allowed them the right to apply to construct a women's and children's residential facility on the premises. The resolution included an exhibit item which indicated that this facility would be attached to the existing structure. Due to financial costs, the project was put on hold, though the CCS is now planning to use 4 modular housing units, also known as tiny homes, approved by the state on the east side of the property instead of the originally proposed building addition. There are currently 3 2-bedroom and 1 1-bedroom dwelling units identified on their submitted plans, totaling 2,786 square feet. Because the proposed layout does not match what was originally approved by exhibit in the 2006 City Council resolution, the applicant is proposing an amendment resolution. If approved, the proposal would still be subject to a building permit application and site plan review by staff. In regards to conditions, the original 2006 CUP stipulated that a cross-lot parking agreement with Knights of Columbus to the west be secured, which is now on file with staff. Additional conditions recommended by staff include the following. The extent of the expansion will consist of not more than 4 independent dwelling units and accessory yard improvements. Each dwelling unit will not be occupied by more than a single family. The minimum lease term shall be for more than 30 days, subject to tenants' rights under the Arizona Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. No custodial or medical care will be provided within the dwelling units. A modified site plan shall be prepared and approved by the Development Review Committee to replace Exhibit B of Resolution 2006, prior to any building permit being issued. And apologies, it's a mistake. That should be by staff. And I believe in the memo and the resolution it's correct. It says by staff. Staff has performed the required notification procedures associated with the city's requirements for a conditional use permit, including a legal advert in the newspaper, a sign posting on site, and mailed letters to all property owners who own a property within 500 feet of the site. 2 members of the public, including the president of the adjacent Columbian Association and a neighboring resident, raised a number of concerns regarding the proposed use and site design of the neighborhood in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. As mentioned, the proposal will still be subject to the staff review for compliance with code if approved. Hearing the staff report, a presentation by Catholic Community Services, and the concerns from the public, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the proposed amendment resolution unanimously 4-0 on April 1st. This concludes staff's report. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
The feedback, all that feedback was from 2 people?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Any other comments? All right. Thank you, sir. We're going to the next resolution, 2025-027, the 100-foot communications tower at 999 East Fry Boulevard. Staff report, Mr. Pregler. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Great, thank you. So SmartLink Real Estate, on behalf of AT&T, are proposing a 100-foot communications tower designed as a pine tree, or monopine, to be located on a vacant pad located at 999 East Fry Boulevard. And you can see here on the map the location of 999 East Fry Boulevard. There's Ginger's Titles located over here, and we have a Progressive Insurance Company building located right here. So this tree may look familiar to some of the council members. The development code requires a conditional use permit for communications towers 60 feet in height or greater. The total lease area is 50 feet by 50 feet and will include the tower and associated ground-mounted equipment that will be screened with an 8-foot masonry wall. The tower will provide for the co-location of at least 2 additional carriers. So the applicant needs to justify the need for a new communications tower for approval for the conditional use permit. The applicant has stated that the new tower will reduce coverage gaps and provide better coverage for surrounding residences, businesses, and the First Responder Network Authority, which dedicates communications to first responders and emergency services. The applicant provided propagation maps to show how the proposed tower will provide better service for the network. So if we look at these maps on the screen here, you'll notice that there's yellow, oranges, yellowish types of areas. The dark red areas provide the best coverage. And so the orange areas would technically be called coverage gaps. So if you look at AZ01617R, which is the proposed tower, in the lower propagation map, you'll notice that orange area is gone. It is now all red. So this is the coverage area that basically will be covered by the new tower, the new service area. So the development code requires that applicants provide substantial evidence demonstrating that existing towers or structures cannot accommodate and provide the proposed telecommunication services. In other words, constructing a new communications tower should be only considered as an alternative when all their options have been exhausted. And the applicant has provided us a map and showed us, I think, 6 different towers in the area and explained why these towers, for one reason or another, would not be able to meet the necessary service coverage areas. The applicant has stated that the alternative towers cannot be used because of the lower height. There's no capability for 5G, no availability to co-locate, or they're located outside the coverage area. And staff requested that the applicant provide additional information to justify constructing a 100-foot tower called a macro site versus a micro site, which are smaller antennas attached to streetlights and power poles. According to the applicant, macro sites offer greater capacity and coverage for businesses and residential properties, whereas micro sites are used for smaller residential areas where existing infrastructure is the only way to boost coverage for small areas. Since the goal is to close a coverage gap that serves a large geographic area, a microsite, or in this case the 100-foot monopine, is more applicable. Now I want to have a discussion about the design of the tower. Now the development code requires communication towers to utilize camouflage techniques where feasible. Camouflage techniques, sometimes referred to as concealed or stealth facilities, means a tower or antenna designed to unobtrusively blend into the existing surroundings, be disguised so as to not have the appearance of a communications facility, or be designed or located in such a manner that the tower or antenna is not easily discernible from surrounding properties. So according to the applicant, the proposed monopine will include design features that increase the realistic effect and overall aesthetic of the tower. These features include, number 1, that the length of the branches shall be in proportion to the height of the monopine as determined by the city. 2, that the density of the branches shall be a minimum of 3 branches per foot. 3, the branches shall extend beyond all antennas by at least 12 inches. 4, the branches shall begin a minimum of 15 feet from the ground. 5, that the top of the faux tree shall be a minimum of 5 feet above the highest antenna. And 6, brown paint or a bark cladding acceptable to the city shall be used to conceal the vertical sections of the structure. Now, these 6 particular design standards can be seen in the most recently designed and constructed monopine over off of Ford Avenue. They use the same 6 criteria. So that tower is a lot more realistic than some of the other towers, communication towers you see here in town.
Okay.
Now let's look at staff's analysis, starting with site suitability. Now the development code requires that the minimum setback distance from the property line for communications towers be equal to 110% of the height of the proposed tower, or 110% of the distance between the top of the tower and the break point. Further, the code states that the setback distance from an adjoining residential zoning district shall be equal to twice the height of the proposed tower. Now the tower does meet all required setbacks. The south and the west setback are being met by measuring the distance from the top of the antenna to the break point. The development code requires that the Development Review Committee approve this reduced setback. The Development Review Committee did approve the setback on March 28th. Looking at the traffic impacts, there will be minimal operations or employees on the site. The applicant stated maintenance would occur approximately once a month. As a result, no additional parking is needed. Regarding the noise impacts, the applicant will be constructing an 8-foot block wall as stated, which will minimize any noise from the ground-mounted equipment such as an emergency generator. Next, look at the compatibility with surrounding areas. The property is zoned general commercial with no immediate residences in the area. The tower will be set back from Fry Boulevard and 7th Street, partially obscured by existing buildings. Now, provided in the packets are photo simulations of the proposed tower taken from various points in the surrounding area. And just very quickly on the screen there, we see a view from 7th Street. This is looking east from 7th Street. You can see there's a car wash kind of blocking the lower portion of the tower. This is actually taken from the internal parking lot of the site looking westbound. And this is looking from Fry Boulevard kind of northwest. You can see it's kind of located behind the Progressive building located right there. So the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend unanimous approval of this request at their April 1st meeting. Now, the city is required to notify the public of the dates and times of the public hearings and request comment from any interested parties. The city received one letter of support from the city fire marshal, Don Foster, stating that the new tower will greatly improve the fire and EMS communications that rely on the first responders network. That letter is attached for your review. I also want to mention that staff did contact the Fort Huachuca Encroachment Board in terms of the frequencies of the new tower, and I did hear back from the Encroachment Board saying they had no additional comments. There were no conflicts. So with that, this concludes staff support, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
What height above the surface to require an aircraft warning light is 150 feet?
I am not sure, but I believe I've heard that number before. I believe that's correct.
The AT&T portion, is that FirstNet that supports it? The public safety, the 14 megahertz thing? Right, for AT&T, that's the portion that they use for their justification is it'll extend
that's
the
correct.
range, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so the FirstNet network will be on board, obviously along with whatever AT&T commercial stuff they're doing.
That's correct. And it will allow 2 additional commercial carriers on the site on the tower as well.
Of note, FirstNet is supposed to sunset in 2027 unless Congress does something, so we got to keep that in mind too. It should be in the forefront of everybody when it comes to, since we're talking about first responder communications, FirstNet is not currently, when I checked, was not going to be, it's sunsetting in 2027, so that could be a problem for a lot of people unless, hopefully something's done soon, but just of note when looking into FirstNet, that it's supposed to sunset in 2027 right now, so it could be a problem. Thank you.
I have a quick comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that it's called a monopine, and I love all of the various design features that go into that. I think and to make it look like as realistically as a tree as possible, I think that's great. And the pictures that kind of show the proposed, what it's going to look like, I think it looks nice there. Like they have like a tree there, so I think it's pretty cool. So.
Well, there are some conifers in the general area, so it's
Yeah.
not like it'd be the only pine.
It kind of like fits in there a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and they just cut down a really large tree in front of that car wash, so it's looking a little bare anyway. Thank you for taking the time, whoever did this, because that's really, we have to see that it's going to be aesthetically okay. Otherwise, it goes up and everyone's complaining, and we're like, the other images don't show that, so I appreciate this.
Thank you, sir. We'll go to item number 7, Resolution 2025-28, conditional use permit for a place of worship. Sir?
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The First Baptist Church of Tombstone congregation closed their current place of worship in Tombstone and is seeking to relocate to a new building in Sierra Vista. The church is proposed to be located at 2151 South Highway 92 in Cochise Vista Plaza.
Little Fred learned about life and death.
The operations of the church will include a worship center located in Suite 108 and Children's Religious Education Center located in Suite 109. And both of those suites are identified on the map on the screen. The church, to be reestablished as Shout Church, Inc., will be leasing the 2 suites until such time as the congregation has enough funds to either purchase or build a new worship facility. In addition to the conditional use permit, tenant improvements will be required to accommodate the functions of the church. There have been office and commercial uses previously located within the 2 suites. The development code requires a conditional use permit for a place of worship in all zoning districts, hence the purpose of this request. Now, looking at staff's analysis, let's first take a look at the surrounding properties and uses which are currently commercial. The place of worship and the children's religious education, which function as commercial uses, will have minimal impacts on adjacent uses, as many of the businesses will be closed during the worship and education service hours, which are typically on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The Bible study will be also offered, occurring Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. and Friday evenings from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., again after the closure of many of the businesses. Secondly, the site is adequately parked for a place of worship. According to the Development Code, the minimum number of parking spaces for places of worship is calculated by measuring the total square feet of the main sanctuary divided by 50. The main sanctuary is approximately 1,455 square feet, which will require 29 parking spaces. There are a total of 126 spaces in the shopping center and 7 staff parking spaces behind the 2 suites, which is more than meets the parking demand for the place of worship. Third, based on the most recent business inventory, as completed in September of 2024, 47% of the total units in the plaza are vacant. The church would reduce the vacancy rate and contribute to maintaining the financial viability of the plaza. Next, the church's ability to serve. There are currently 2 access points into the site, both from frontage road. According to the ITE traffic generation rates, the average Sunday vehicle trips for a place of worship per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area is 31 vehicles. With the gross floor area of the main sanctuary, 1,455 square feet, the average vehicle trips on Sunday will be less than 46 vehicles, which can be accommodated by frontage road and State Route Highway 92. The applicant is also proposing to construct a second ADA accessible bathroom. The shopping center is currently served by the city sewer, which will be able to handle the additional connection. Finally, the church's compatibility with the surrounding area. As previously stated, the surrounding zoning and land uses are commercial. Many of the businesses are closed during the services, so there should be minimal impacts to the surrounding area. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval of the request at their April 1st meeting. As stated previously, the city is required to notify the public of the dates and times of the public hearings and request public comment. The city received 1 comment of support from the owner of Cochise Plaza, which is attached. So this does conclude staff support, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just looking at the map. I think there's another business, a beauty bar that's in there now that's, I think, fairly new, that's missing from this map. No, it's on the other side.
On the other side?
On the other side. I just didn't see it on there. I thought it was like a new beauty place that opened up. Some beauty, I can't remember the name. It's a beauty bar, but anyway, I think it's just missing from the map. That's
Yes,
all.
sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know current occupants, liquor licenses are good. If I bought Dos Brothers Tacos tomorrow and wanted to get a liquor license, can I or can't I?
Councilmember Benning, to answer your question, the answer is yes. The state law was amended, I believe, last year. There used to be, and to kind of background on what you're referring to, there was a state law that stated that a liquor license cannot be issued within 300 feet of a school or a church. That was amended last year. And so now the state law reads it has to be, a liquor license cannot be issued if it's within 300 feet of a school. And the church has been omitted now.
Okay.
Church has
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, some churches have wine and,
Do they?
and alcohol. Yeah.
The,
And they meet in a bar.
wine. I need to go to that church. We don't have wine.
Just kind of come on.
Then the name of that place is La Katrina Beauty Bar. It's where it says
Oh yeah.
where it says insurance. It's a La Katrina Beauty Bar. It's a new
Katrina
place.
Beauty Bar. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Too. Yeah, it's really nice to see vacant buildings become non-vacant, and because I always hate to see these vacant storefronts and stuff. So it'll be nice to have a little bit more going on in that plaza, and then hopefully it'll boost. It'll help Dos Bros as well. Dos Bros Tacos having a little more people there because they're open a lot of the time. So yeah, it'll be nice to have some more stuff going on in there. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Jeff, do you remember what was in there before? Because we can't remember.
The law firm was in one of them.
No, it was on
Just
the end.
curious.
Bethlehem
The law
Bagels.
firm was, well,
The bagel
Statue
one?
was on the end.
Bethlehem Bagels?
Apex Network Physical, the one right to the right of that one as you're looking at it, on top of it, that was a law firm. Elderly lady, she was my attorney. And then the one next to that, I'm not sure, but the
There's a
big one,
surgical
that was
dental
that?
center, surgical dental
a
center.
dentist, I think, yeah.
Golden Rule Jewelry.
Oh, that's it.
Who is it?
The jewelry.
Yes, was the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah, HED.
Wish they were still
HED.
And a podiatrist.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
I don't think none of them been on the end up on the top.
All right. Thank you so much. No other questions, comments, discussion items? Thank you, sir. And we go to our new business, Resolution 2025-229, the APS retirement system. Mr. Felix, staff report, Mr. Felix, sir.
Mayor, members of council, the city currently has two options for 457 plans that employees can enroll in. One is through ICMA, and there's a few people that participate in that, and the major one is nationwide. A couple of months back, some of the public safety staff came forward and requested that we consider adding the PSPRS retirement system, which is also administered through nationwide. The key difference in it, the major difference between the PSPRS plan and the city plan is the load on the city plans is either 55 cents or 90 cents transaction, depending on which funds you choose to invest in. PSPRS is 5 cents a transaction. It just started that in January under their new negotiated contract. As we looked at the PSPRS plan, we also found out from Nationwide, ASRS also has a plan, and that has a 6 cent load. We've done research. We've got written confirmation from the Nationwide representative that we can add these two plans as city options for city employees to invest in or transfer their current retirement systems to, with no IRS implications, no implications on anything else with the city. So what this would do would keep the current plan. If people want to stay in their current plans, they can. If they wish to transfer to one of the two new plans, they can as well. So that's all we're doing is adding two new options for people. As you may read, we do technically have 3 retirement plans. The third one is closed. The people that are in it are mostly former public safety personnel who have stayed with that plan. They will also be given the option to transfer from their current plan to the new plan. And as the Nationwide rep said, they can then just fill out a form, have it easily transferred, and move to the new account. The other addition to the new accounts, as they're obviously much bigger than the city's plan, they have some different investment options. Some of the major funds will carry over, but what may be a smaller cap fund, smaller used fund, Nationwide's, those two other plans will have other options for them. So they can either stay with us, keep the plans they have, some of the funds may transfer, or they can select new ones. So that's all this is doing, is allowing them to do it. We'll have if this is approved Thursday, we'll have a rollout period. We'll meet with the various people, have information sets for them to come to, and we'd implement it on June 1st so that HR can get all the processing done before the new fiscal year starts, and they have to go through and do all of any adjustments to people's salaries or class comp or anything like that. So obviously that is a busy time for HR with changing everything. So this also times it so that that does not overlap. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Just a comment. Thank you to the first responders for going out and doing their own homework and figuring out there was some other stuff out there. Thank you for our new admin for being supportive of this. Whether new leadership and admin pushing things like this through along with Mr. Felix. So thanks for giving them the option. Appreciate that.
So as the Nationwide rep said, the firefighters certainly do talk to each other at all their get-togethers.
For sure. Other questions, comments? Thank you, sir. See you on Thursday. And item number 9, resolution 2025-030, restating the city's commitment to fair housing. Staff report, Mr. McLaughlin.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, all entitlement communities that receive federal funding are required to take meaningful action to further fair housing choices within their community. The city of Sierra Vista has consistently supported the concept of the provision of fair housing to its residents without regard to race, color, religion, sex, national origin, handicap, or familial status. The state of Arizona has a Fair Housing Act that carries some of the same protections as the federal Fair Housing Act. The Civil Rights Division of the Arizona Attorney General's Office investigates and resolves housing discrimination complaints as well as providing education on fair housing. As documented in last year's update to the city's analysis of impediments to fair housing choice report, the number of fair housing complaints within the city is relatively minuscule. Over the past 5 years, we've averaged 1 complaint per year. So our realtors do a good job making sure that the laws are followed. At the meeting after the meeting on Thursday, the resolution and proclamation will be posted in public places, and fair housing brochures will continue to be made available in public buildings. If you want to learn more, the Housing Authority of Cochise County, in collaboration with the Southwest Fair Housing Council, is offering a free fair housing topic seminar this Thursday in the Board of Supervisors hearing room that runs from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments for?
Will the Board of Supervisors be here, you said?
Say again?
You said the Board of Supervisors will be here?
No, in the hearing room.
Oh, I was
Yeah,
I was
that's the
confused.
venue
Wait,
for this
wait, what?
free
Okay.
seminar.
I thought I heard that wrong. Thank you. Okay, what?
Yeah. Any other comment? So thank you, sir. And after proceed to the call to the public and comments from the council and adjournment. On tonight, we have presentations. First presentation is on proposed changes to our sewer impact development fees and proposed rate increase. Good afternoon, Bryce.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Bryce Kirkpatrick. I am the External Operations Manager here at the City of Sierra Vista under Public Works. I'm over transit, refuse, and wastewater, and as such, I'm here to discuss the wastewater and refuse proposed rate increases. So to give you a little background, I'm going to start with wastewater. The wastewater O&M costs ultimately have gone up since our last rate increase. We've seen 18% salary increases since 2021 here at the city. Our operation and maintenance costs have increased significantly. As an example, the ADOT construction cost index has increased 51% since 2021. Our last sewer rate increase was in 2012, and that was associated with our last plant upgrades. And our last sewer connection fee increase was in 2023. So I want to focus on some of our existing wastewater infrastructure, particularly our wastewater treatment plant. The original plant was constructed around the year 2000, and improvements were then made later in 2011. I believe those were completed in early 2013. There are some issues with our current treatment plant. We rely on geomembrane liner basins. These liners have a roughly 10-year expected life, and they were installed mostly in 2012 during the construction of the upgrades, and we are in 2025. We did have a liner fail, as you all may know, last summer in our anoxic basin. Additionally, we have some limited capacity in some of our treatment processes, and much of the plant lacks redundancy. So when we need to work on one of our treatment trains, we have to take that train completely offline, and we're not treating during that maintenance timeline, which in a biological process is not ideal. Treatment plant upgrades. So we have been planning upgrades through the wastewater master planning process since 2022. We've gone through multiple iterations to try to find a more cost-efficient source of upgrades. These upgrades will impact our connection fees and rates. And I want to note that the recommended upgrades are high priority status items, and they don't include the entirety of what we're eventually looking to do with the plant. So to start with, water initially flows into the plant as raw sewage into what's called the headworks. This is the initial screening of anything that won't be treated through the biological process in the plant. So this filters out any personal hygiene products, rags, sticks, anything that can get flushed down the toilet, and removes it so we don't damage our pumps down further in the process. For the headworks, we are looking to improve site grading to prevent stormwater runoff from entering into our headworks area. We're also looking to construct curb around this structure to both contain high inflow events as well as keep out stormwater runoff. And then we have some general repairs to the screening mechanisms. Moving on to our basins, this is where the majority of the treatment occurs in the water. This is our biological process. As you can see in this picture, we have those geomembrane liners in here, and that's what is failing and is at end of expected life. So our plan with the basins is to replace these geomembrane liners with shotcrete liners. We looked at a concrete alternative, and it's unfortunately very expensive, so shotcrete is in the middle range there. They do provide an extended life cycle over our current liner material and are relatively cost efficient. And we're also looking to repurpose one of our holding basins as a treatment basin so that we are able to pull that treatment basin offline to do maintenance in the future while running the other one.
Bryce? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
What happens when the liner fails? Where does the stuff stop? Where does it go? Just go into the ground? What
Councilmember, yes. Unfortunately, untreated water then starts infiltrating into the ground.
All right, yeah, so everyone, including myself, understands the severity behind what we need to do? Okay.
Absolutely.
So the curbing would help with that runoff if that happens?
In that area for the basins, we are looking at doing some general grading to try to keep some of the stormwater runoff out of there, but we're not looking to curb the liners or curb the basins necessarily.
And
the
then
headworks is what we're looking to curb.
Okay. And the shotcrete, the other liners is 10 years is the average life with shotcrete. That's about how long?
The shotcrete estimated lifetime is 20 to 25 years before maintenance is needed. And there are some general maintenance items throughout its life that we'll need to address, but prior to needing significant maintenance, they're estimated at 20, 25 years.
Thank you.
What is shotcrete?
Shotcrete is essentially a spray-on concrete material.
Oh, like gunite?
Sorry?
Is it like gunite for
Similar.
a pool?
Yes.
Okay. And so what's the cost delta, what's the cost comparison between shotcrete and current liners?
I don't have those numbers in front of me currently, but I can get those for you if you are interested.
Yeah, because we're saving a lot of money, but it's not going to last as long. Is that?
It's not expected to last quite as long as concrete, but
Shotcrete lasts a little longer.
shotcrete does last longer than our current liners,
Yeah.
yes.
Than our current liners,
Yeah, I meant
Yeah.
concrete, sorry. I wasn't.
Okay.
So moving on to our clarifiers, this is where we separate out the microbial life from the treated water. So this essentially gives us clean, clear water to recharge into our basins. The clarifiers are generally in good shape. They're doing well. But through modeling, we determined that our two clarifiers that we do have are at capacity. We are recommending a third clarifier at this time. Disinfection. We currently don't do any disinfection at the plant. It's not required through our ADQ permit. However, with the upgrades and the bad cat requirements issued by ADQ, it does look like they are going to require disinfection if we move through with these improvements. So we are looking at chlorination currently as a disinfection method.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Ooh, yeah.
Why do they want us to disinfect it if it's not, I mean,
It's going in the ground.
but we're already treating it, right? So it's,
So we are, and I don't have the history as to why necessarily we don't disinfect now, but it is an ADQ requirement to disinfect in the method that we're recharging at this point.
okay.
So we're anticipating it coming up with these improvements because we will have to renew our permit if we improve the plant and change our process.
Mr. Mayor?
Ma'am.
Can I make a point
Yes,
real quick? So, in regard to disinfection, permit requirements do change over time. It's important to note that we got our existing permit about 25 years ago, and then it was modified when we did the upgrades. At the time, ADQ did not require us to disinfect. Now that is a requirement for our treatment method. As long as our plant stayed as is, we were grandfathered. As soon as we start doing upgrades to the plant, we are no longer grandfathered.
Does that make the water a higher quality that we recharge? Is that the reason?
Mayor Pro Tem Humphrey, yes, it does. We're required to disinfect and then remove any residuals in disinfectant prior to recharging, so it would prevent microbial contaminants from entering in where we recharge.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to our wetlands. The wetlands are historical treatment portion of the plant. They're currently still used. They're part of our treatment train and piping process. They essentially hold treated water until we recharge it at our recharge basins. Currently, we do have significant water loss to the wetlands through evapotranspiration. They're also likely reducing the quality of our recharge water at this point. And currently, we're recommending removal of the wetlands to create some savings for the upcoming disinfection process. If we can remove the wetlands, we can put in a larger pipeline that would act as a contact basin from our disinfection point to where we dechlorinate towards the recharge basins.
It's the sanctuary thing.
Isn't that
Yeah,
what-
But
that's-
you're not talking about the EOP, are you?
No,
This is at the EOP, yes.
it's at the LP.
like the bird viewing area?
With the
Yeah.
long
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't like that. Then people have,
the yearly fire,
yeah.
the burn.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So does this reduce the amount of recharge that we have?
So in a short answer, yes, Councilmember Jones, we do have some evapotranspiration coming off of the wetlands that reduces what we put into the ground.
You're going to have even more because you're not going to have any water there to recharge, right?
So the wetlands and the recharge basins are two separate items. The wetlands themselves are essentially more of a holding area for the water. The recharge basins are located farther east
Okay,
at the EOP where we
got it.
recharge into the aquifer.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mayor McCaw, members of the council, Mr. Jones, the wetlands do cause us to lose more water to evaporation. And if they were closed, I think we would see increased recharge numbers.
Okay, so I was under, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was under I thought those, that plant, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the plants growing there, but I thought it was like
Bulrushes.
cleaning the water, scrubbing it, whatever you call it. And, okay, so what were we doing then? I know we have the holding, but then what were the plants for if we, because that's how I understood the explanation of it.
Well, I'll have to try to take that one on.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor McCobb, Mayor Pro Tem Humphrey, at the time, the wetlands concept was a lower cost and considered to be a relatively progressive thinking way of treating the water. So over time, we're finding that we do lose some of that water to evaporation. It is a maintenance issue, and your annual prescribed burns out there and that kind of thing. And technology has changed over time, and our needs have changed as well. So, we're looking at a different process. And I appreciate Bryce doing this, as I mentioned to you and the mayor this morning. Because of the anticipated cost of this particular project, I do want to take a look at some private sector solutions to this. There are a number of companies that specialize in this, from taking the project from this point and the work that Public Works has done all the way through operations and maintenance. So it is, because of the cost, I do think we owe it to you guys to look at all these options and try to save as much money as we can.
Get good.
So because of the new requirement for disinfection, the EOP's cleansing, the natural way of treating the water is not gonna cut it. And it was before?
So, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Humphrey, so the existing method does not disinfect. So we're producing a Class A effluent. Our existing method would never be able to do that. There's some other methods that you can use to disinfect, but chlorine is the easiest and least expensive of those methods.
Yeah. We're so prideful, right, of having that park and like how it uses plants to do what but just so it's not going to have any purpose with it would have no position with a new requirement. It would serve no purpose to run it through there still or do whatever we have to do. Okay.
And based on what the consultant is telling us, no. What my predecessors had conveyed to me when the wetlands were put in is initially they were thought to provide some polishing benefit to the water. But really, and especially with the clarifiers subsequently being constructed, any benefit the wetlands provide is overridden by the evapotranspiration and the maintenance needs of those wetlands. Everyone's very familiar with what happens when we burn the wetlands a couple times a year. It's a lot of smoke that's going up and trying to take care of those wetlands. And if there's no real benefit to that stage of the process anymore, then it doesn't really make sense to keep it when we can just route directly to the recharge basins.
Do we have wildlife dependent on that now?
That's
Oh,
what I'm asking.
yeah. Because you go out there and it's just like birds constantly chattering. You
Yeah,
know?
that's my question. With the wetlands comes habitats. Are we ready for the pushback, getting rid of the wetlands that's gonna cause with Mother Nature lovers?
Well, and not the actual birds. Yeah.
Yeah, you said it right.
The birds themselves are trying to be upset, I think.
Yeah, like if
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Benning, the wildlife would relocate to the recharge basins, which are on the other side of the site. So we have an entire section of land out there, 1 mile by 1 mile. The wetlands are kind of west of Middle. The recharge basins are all the way on the east side of the site. So we're talking a distance of half a mile. The birds will easily be able to find the recharge basins, as would the other animals as well.
What about the bird watchers? That's what I'm more concerned about, is the,
That
that we have at the wetlands, that they could go in and sit and see and enjoy.
Move the benches.
They're the platform.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Can we
Platform.
move that farther to the recharge station, or?
We potentially could do that. There is actually a pedestrian access gate along Mosen Road right now that the bird watching groups have a key to, but it is kept locked so people don't wander around the plant. So we could look at potentially relocating the bird viewing platform. One thing that has become evident to us over time is we need to better control access, however, because we have had some people kind of go off on their own. And obviously there are inherent dangers in that line of work, and we don't want anyone getting too close to those treatment basins.
Sweet.
Yep.
We don't know crap.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Sorry to detour you.
that's
Oh.
totally fine. Absolutely. Ask
Back
questions.
on track. Wetlands.
So we're at wetlands support facilities. Okay, there we go.
So, along with these proposed improvements, we do have support facilities that we have to consider as well. Along with that is remodeling the existing ops lab building. It is relatively old and it's in somewhat poor condition. Also, with reworking some of these storage basins in order to put in the secondary aeration basin, we'll have to do quite a bit of on-site piping upgrades, and along with that comes with electrical and control upgrades as well. This is the current summary of cost for the expected improvements at the plant alone. There are a couple wastewater collection projects as well that are coming on the pipeline for maintenance, and this doesn't include design or construction administration of these items.
Is this millions?
This
Yes, that's
this
insane.
20 million.
Are we? I haven't.
Go ahead.
Are we able to? Is Schneider something we can? This looks like a thing that we would have in the past partnered with them to help pay for. Is that something?
Well, Mayor McCaw, Mayor Pro Tem Humphrey, we're at a point where staff has been working with a consultant to come up with some preliminary concepts and ideas in terms of looking at the plant. So we're at a point where we can start looking at some other alternatives. To use some of the road projects as an example, we talked about a little bit this morning, like the Buffalo Soldier Trail extension actually came in under what you had budgeted by $200,000 to $300,000, and that was because we, in an agreement, had the school and their contractor do that work. I think because we have to publish our budget, I think it would have come in higher had we not done that. So with regards to the capital costs, and I'm just talking off of experience now, I see maybe some potential to save capital construction costs by going a different route. Operations, I think we could probably, be very competitive with the private sector, but I think there may be a better turnkey solution than just going out and individually bidding this. So I'm going to take a look at that. But yeah, we're talking very expensive. Remember tonight we're only talking about the rate increases that we need to adjust because it's an enterprise fund and costs have gone up. You haven't raised the rates since 2012. The world has changed around us, and I think we've actually done a pretty good job keeping rates down for as long as we've been able to. But these past few years with inflation, we're just not able to keep up with that anymore. So I have to look ahead further to the construction of this facility. What's the financing going to look like? How long are we going to keep that out? And then try to balance that with keeping the rates as low as possible at the same time. So we really owe it to ourselves to take a look at a lot of different options to go forward. So the good news is the last upgrade that was done in 2011, as Mr. Kirkpatrick pointed out, the notes on that will be paid off in 2027. So we'll see that debt service roll off. Around the same time, we're going to start seeing new debt service come on to this, which was always in our plan to do it that way. So we're trying to mitigate the cost of the ratepayers, but there's no way to get around the current rate situation that we have.
Mr. Jones.
So the rate increases just keep us breaking even, because we can't use enterprise funds to save them to pay for this. Is that correct?
I'll let Mr. Felix after me address that, or
Well, there's a couple different rates at play. The rates that you have right now in your sewer rate structure for your sewer enterprise fund cover your O&M costs and your capital replacement costs. The one thing we have to notice is right now we got 3 major sewer projects, one going on right now. While we're a relatively young city, sewer systems start to fail after 50 years or so. There's old construction. Public Works is going to be very busy with dealing with line replacements and those kind of things. That's one of the main reasons why our costs are going to go up, and I project them to go up even further. The other rate that you have is your sewer connection fee, and that pays for capacity at the plant. So as you have growth, you have more houses, you generate more effluent. That sewer connection fee is charged against those new houses that are coming in. That helps pay for increased capacity. So there's 2 different revenue streams accomplishing 2 different things.
And can these improvements be sequenced?
I'm sorry, can you please clarify?
Can they be sequenced? Do you have to do them all at the same time?
They will have to be phased, but in a relatively short period of time. We can't do everything at once because it will affect our plant processes, but they are relatively going to be in a shorter period.
All right, yes, sir.
It's like I said, reduce cost, 28 million.
28 million.
Yeah, I mean, the small numbers don't make me feel any better. So.
Yeah.
Just because they cut the zero.
Yeah, I mean,
As long as I know I got converted to millions, it's still a lot of money.
I mean, I was not trying to be funny. I'm just saying, like, we always deal in whole numbers. So if we can't do that next time,
Reduce cost.
I like it. It makes me, smaller number, but it's still million.
I just like how electrical sensitive thing on there.
It's just phase one.
It helped me. I don't know. Comparing this to budget numbers, it helps line it up better. I
See
think.
the whole thing.
No,
I can do the math.
900,000.
Mayor McCaw, members of the council, well, right now, we're paying for the last upgrade. and that's rolled into the rates right now. So that's going to go off. This is going to be more than that, obviously, and phasing it in and attempting. There's some other things I think we can do financially. Is it going to keep rates at their current level? No, but I'm very mindful of the fact that raising rates is a difficult thing to do for the ratepayers, and my job is to try to keep those rates down as far as possible and try to keep them as level as possible, so you're not having to raise rates every year to operate this. So I'm aware of that, and I think there's some ways we can mitigate some of this. So,
I mean, that's why all this is so important for us, is because we get all the questions on why we're getting the raised rates, and we're not. A lot of times our residents feel like the rates going up, but they're not getting any more service provided. So, but it's just the cost of it is really the answer to everything, and this breakdown will definitely help us explain why that is happening. And the last time this did, and knowing the last time it happened is important too. Like Chuck said, in 2012.
And if we had continued to have failures, like you're pointing out, Mr. Rodriguez, we subject ourselves to potential consent orders and a shutdown of the community and development of the community. People don't realize, because it's out of sight, out of mind, how important the sewer system is to the healthy, not only the current public health and welfare of the community, but the ability to grow in a responsible manner in the future. So
definitely, yeah. Consent
it's
orders,
probably one of the most important systems that you have.
You don't want consent orders for this or consent decrees for PD or things like that.
Is that operations laboratory building, is that new construction that you're building on, or is it that just upgraded the current building?
That is upgrading the current building, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Electrical controls.
All right.
This is just one question.
Yeah, this is.
So,
Sorry, yeah.
sorry, that's my inclusion of the wastewater presentation. We're moving into to refuse now.
We got a whole bunch more to get to.
These are all good questions that they need to be asked, so that's fine.
The last refuse increase was in 2020. Since that last increase, we've had that same 18% salary increase since 2021. Our vehicle maintenance costs have risen with parts and labor significantly, and our capital costs in order to purchase items for our fleet have gone up significantly as well. This is a list of the maintenance costs starting in fiscal year 19, going through fiscal year 24. And we've seen an 85% increase in our maintenance cost, and that's distributed across labor and supplies as well.
A WO is a what?
That is a work order. So we are a work order system at the city. That's how we request service on a truck or repair. And so it's comparing, the number of work orders put in compared to the cost. So the number of work orders haven't changed too
So a
much.
stable work order is higher cost.
This slide here highlights increase in common trash truck body parts. And when I say body parts, that includes the compactor, the arm, not necessarily the truck body itself. As you can see, many of these parts have doubled in cost over a fiscal year. These parts alone come down to an average increase of 50%. This slide here represents a comparison to capital costs. In fiscal year 18, we purchased a side loader trash truck for just under $300,000. And in fiscal year 22, we purchased one for just under $400,000. So we're seeing a significant increase in the price of operating and purchasing these capital goods. And with that, I'm going to pass on to Mr. Felix to present the financial portion of this.
Comes with a smile on his face.
I get the fun job here. I think there's two important things before we even get into the three that are important to talk about. First is the city manager mentioned, if ADQ says we're at capacity, that stops all construction. We cannot issue housing permits. That's incredibly important, obviously, to our community. Second is that sewer plant, Hyzon first came in with a $75 million plant, including completely changing the processes. I believe that somebody's done a great job in getting what's critical to do that. Bryce has worked with them. What is critical, we have to get done. What is a nice to have? All the nice to haves, all the, well, let's upgrade this and sell our services to others. That's all been removed from the plant upgrade. So Bryce has worked very well with a consultant to say these are the absolute critical things we've had. As you know, we did have the liner tear because it's at the end of life. Those hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix because we had raw sewage in contact with the ground. The other 3 liners are in the same way. And if there's one of the other basins get torn, the cost for that to bring in the manual process and external processing will be more than we've paid for the last one. And third, of course, none of us like rate increases because we, like you, also pay the same sewer sanitation rates because many of us live in town. So we'll pay the same increase that everybody else is having. So as well as knowing the impact on the community and having me and my staff deal with people calling in to discuss the rate increases and the changes, we're very sensitive to that as well. So as I discussed as we put in the public hearing, we are proposing a 15% rate increase for sewer fees on July 1, 2025, another 15% on July 1, 2026. We looked at a 10%. We did not want to go to a 20%. 10% will not get us where we need to go. We are looking at upgrading, changing the sewer connection fees, upping them 2.25 times. At the same time, we'll be suspending the infrastructure, police, and fire connection impact fees. The reason for that is we're not going to realistically build another fire station within 10 years, nor a police station. Impact fees have to be used within 10 years or you have to give them back to the developer. As you know, we are looking at budgeting over $2 million for the slight roadway extension of BST. In the next 6 years, the last estimate was to get $600,000 in infrastructure connection fees. That's not going to get us much of a road. And for the connection fees, you have to have them redone every couple years for $100,000 in consulting fees. You have to pay for audits of them as well. So in the net, it is much more critical to have the sewer connection fee where it can help doing a plant expansion and connect to what is there than it is to have the other fees because realistically, we're not going to get them used in time. The plus of what I'm targeting here is for a developer to walk in and pay his permit to build a house, this will be just under $200 less than he would walk in today to pay. The connection fee of their sewer will be less than those 4 fees that he currently pays or she pay combined. So that's the plus to that. We are looking at residential only refuse increase of 10% for July 1, 2025 and July 1, 2026. Commercial is, for those who were on the council before, there is commercial rates. Commercial is open to competition from Waste Management. We've lost a lot of commercial customers already, and Waste Management keeps their rates just below ours. In addition, trash, like recycling, is a volume business. So that is why when Waste Management lobbied the state legislature, they wanted commercial, not residential, because you can get a lot more money from residential customers. Historically, within the city, commercial has subsidized the residential rates. But as we've lost commercial customers, we've had to kind of work on an equilibrium here. That's why we're only looking at increasing the residential rates.
Real quick, Mr. Felix, and when they lobbied, that used to be the cap for the city size used to be what?
60,000.
60,000?
Under 60,000, no commercial competition. They kind of snuck it through. The 3 cities that hit was us, Prescott Valley, and Casa Grande.
Thank you.
As you can see, what we put here is the key importance here is the operating cash flows to pay for the capital needs of the fund. As I mentioned in the works as the last council meeting, the sewer fund, without that $600,000 transfer, would have gone from 1.3 million cash negative to 2.3 cash negative in 2024. That's unfortunately just the way the construction is. We have other lines coming on, they're gonna need that as well. This puts together kind of showing that with the 15% rate increase for the 2 years, we should start to get positive in about 3 years.
3 years.
Now, we're also timing these rate increases for the 2 years. As the city manager mentioned, the note is coming off January 2027 is the last payment on the sewer note. So depending on what's happening with construction costs, the economy at the time, this is why we're going 2 years, not more and not less. Because 2 years will be reevaluating where we're at, saying, do we need to continue? Do we need to do a lower rate increase? Or are we good where we're at?
Yes, sir.
In dollars, what's 15% if for like an average?
Household.
Here you go.
Yeah, thank you.
You're getting ahead of me there. So
Yeah,
for,
I looked for it and I couldn't find it in mine. I'm sorry. Otherwise,
so
I would've just-
basically, you are,
65 gallon, 95 gallon.
here's the increase per month. The bi-monthly bill for a total customer will go up $8, $9 a month. And then in 2026, it'll go up about $10 or $11.
That's every other month.
That's every other month. Currently, that most people will pay $77 a month for sewer and refuse combined.
Yeah, bi-monthly.
Bi-monthly.
Yeah.
Bi-monthly combined.
Thank you.
Everybody knows what this is.
About,
95.
about just under $40 a month.
Gallons, right?
Yeah, gallons.
The gallon.
The 65 gallon, 95 gallon
65 gallon, 95 gallon.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
cans.
So if they have the small can. Yeah.
They have a
it's
small
big
can, their rate's gonna go up $8.82 in their bi-monthly bill for the sewer and the refuse increase. If they're on septic, they're gonna look at either a $2 or $2.25 a month increase. If they're grandfathered in under an annexation, they'll see about a $2.50 increase in their sewer bill per month, or $5 every billing cycle.
Go ahead.
Can we go back 2 slides?
Yes.
To cash flow without increase,
Sewer or refuse?
right there.
Yeah.
So, my quick question where it says, intergovernmental revenue, what's that revenue coming from and why does it drop off after 2025?
The intergovernmental revenue, that is the one project we have with that private party, the $925,000 grant.
Oh, the Reppy Challenge grant?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
and
It's,
then
it's revenue and expense even out on that one.
our dumping fees for the transfer station, since we don't operate it anymore, what are our dumping fees?
Tipping fees.
Tipping
fees,
fees, last, $66 a ton. It's been level that way for a couple of years now.
And then, I missed the question Mark had, but it might go in line with one. Have we looked at putting this commercialized, just the trash?
We did on the last rate increase.
Yeah.
The first challenge with it is, I got 5 bills from city employees that live in the county from the same company. I have 5 different amounts. Most of them tend to be about $30 a month
Okay.
versus our current, as you can see for what the rate would be, ours is less. And ironically, the person that had the highest fee with the private company lived closest to their operations, but they lived down a dirt road, so she had a dirt road fee on her bill. That would also be monopolistic because there's only one that's big enough to do it in town, and that would pretty much take you out of the equation, but that would also further need a larger sewer increase because people like the front desk that take a payment, their salary is split between sewer and refuse. They're still going to have to take a sewer payment. Now, instead of half and half, all of their salary will be charged to the sewer fund.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mayor McCaw, Councilmember Benning, we have looked at privatization a number of times over the years, and some of this gets back to what David was talking about with regards to the legislature giving the private sector the ability to do the commercial. they really aren't that interested in our residential because the money isn't there. You know, they incur the costs and the money isn't there to do it. And so, but they like the commercial because there's not as much, the volume is still great. They're able to undercut our rates to do that because we have to publish our rates and they don't. So as David mentioned, they cut deals with individuals to get their business. You know, out in the county, we're the only competition. And if we don't do it, and we lose all our trucks and drivers, if we ever get in a situation where we have to stand it up again, we would face incredible costs in order to get back into the business. So, you know, those are a number of the reasons why we're kind of in the residential business to begin with. I think our rates are very competitive, you know, around the state. Tipping fees are higher primarily because of the distances involved in transporting refuse. I sit on the rate review board, so I'm aware of that, and we're very mindful of keeping the rates down. The smaller cities really are interested in doing that. So we haven't raised tipping fees now for a while. That may come up again in another year or two, but the reason our rates need to go up really aren't the tipping fees as much right now as the cost that Bryce showed on his slide. So.
No, and I remember y'all looking into privatization last time.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us had to sit through this back in the day, but and I just didn't know. You know, the further we go, does it eventually become beneficial to do that, or vice versa? So that's the only reason I asked. But I know you put in the slides last time that showed the difference and what
you guys at least control the rates. I know we hear from the customers. If you privatized it all, you would have no control over the rates whatsoever, and they could go to whatever number the private hauler wants to take them to at that point. There's no competition.
We did have a customer, we'd have a person who lived their business was just outside the city limits, call us to say, can you please sign up for your service? And they're outside the city limits, so we can't. Because they called Waste Management to argue about their bill, and Waste Management says, okay, we're cutting you off. Came, took their dumpster away, and they were scrambling to try and find somebody to provide them refuse service.
Now, last time we and we're just talking trash right now, but last time we brought this up, we talked the reason we had to go with twice a week. Is the legislature still there that we have to pick up twice a week?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
State law requires twice a week pickup. Unless one is a recycling pickup, then you can have one trash, one recycling. For those who do not know, the state laws in such detail, it defines what is trash, rubbish, refuse. There's 5 things that they actually have definitions for in the state law.
Yes, sir. In regards, since we're talking about tipping fees, I know a year or two ago we had some companies that were dumping the sewage and they complained that they were always full. Like they'd go dump their truck and they were turned away. What's that situation like now? Maybe that's more of a Bryce question.
Bryce or Sharon question?
Members of council, Councilmember Rodriguez, we do only accept a certain amount of septage at the wastewater treatment plant. If we accept too much, we'll upset our own biological activity. So
Okay.
there are times where we do have to turn people away, but that's so that we can meet compliance through ADEQ.
Okay. Thanks.
And it's the second half. I have not heard any issues from drivers of the delays that they used to have at the transfer station either. So if that's
I haven't seen any emails lately, but we got some before and don't know how the situation was going. Thank you.
We don't get any of the revenue from the transfer station, right?
No.
No, and we are required to take it to the transfer station. And that's the other thing is the private hauler is not required to use our transfer station or the county. Historically, private haulers have used Huachuca City as it's the lowest cost one that's close.
all the revenue at the transfer station goes to the county system to support the transfer and the landfill operation.
And we cannot require the, any private haulers to use the transfer station. That's not allowable either. So in the end, here's our proposed rate increase. As you can see, for the refuse, basically 1981 to just under $22, and up to 24 in the following year. So the bi-monthly bill for a 65-gallon can is 72 to 81 in the following year to basically 91. And for people would have a 95-gallon can, basically the $78 they're paying to $87 the following year, and then just under $98 a year after that. We do still have the year in advance payment, which people can pay up front, and they get a 10% discount on their bill. And because it saves us postage, mailing, processing cost. That fee would also go up the same amount, but we'd still have the 10% discount for anyone who wanted to pay the year in advance. That is billed July through June. So you pay in July for the whole fiscal year.
Do we still offer the discount for, I forget what the qualifier was. Was it Medicare or Medicaid?
It's for people that they have to go get the information from DES, and we do still have that, the DES discount.
Could you remind me what it was?
I don't remember that off the top of my head.
Okay. But it's still active, okay.
Yeah, it's still there. And we do, it stays in place for 6 months, but they do have to go and get it renewed and bring it in to us.
Oh, okay.
Other questions? Comments?
Yeah, thank you both for presenting today. I think we had a really good discussion, and I hope that any members of the public that are kind of want to know more, I do suggest that they listen to the work session. I feel like it was a really good discussion, and I appreciate you guys being able to answer our questions and kind of clarify different things. I feel like that sewage and refuse is something that we kind of take for granted in our society that we live in. It's something that we don't really think about until things go wrong. And there's things that need to be taken care of, and if they're not, it's going to go really bad for everybody. So I appreciate all the work that everybody's done for this.
Thank you, sir.
William had a...
No, he left. But I agree. I think if you break it down, no, y'all can sit down. It's more for the people. If you break it down, that's $97 if we look at 2026.
26, yeah. 96.
Which is bi-monthly. So if we're looking $47 a month for trash and sewer services. It's not bad if you call around other cities and what rates are, especially in the private sector. It falls in line, so it's not bad at all.
And when Sharon was giving this presentation 6 years ago, we needed to raise the rates on the sewer then.
Yeah.
But we only did refuse at the time because there was a big jump. But so it's been needed since then. Yeah. Yeah.
And we were hard on them. They had to break it down, pennies, and I think Sharon wanted to kick us off to die. But they presented great back then, and even better today. So I appreciate it.
All right, we'll move to item number C. Let us move item number E to the second work session.
You mean D&E or
D&E?
D&E?
No, we still have the budget presentation too.
Yeah. I'm okay with this one. I'm not voting no.
It's already 4:20, 16:20.
Yeah.
All right, let's see how C goes.
Okay.
So, budget revenue and debt presentation. Hey, Jen.
Remember when Jen first did this? She's come a long way.
I'm a little bit shorter than them.
I'm listening.
Mayor, members of council. So Arizona state requirements dictate that municipalities must present a balanced budget, or in other words, all budgeted revenues need to equal all budgeted expenditures. So the first step in the budgeting process is to account for all potential revenue for the coming year, and then this will provide a base budget and give us a good idea on how much we can spend and any potential constraints for the next year. So there are three main revenue sources for municipalities. And the first one's going to be local revenue. That's going to make up your taxes, fees, services, and bonds. The second revenue source is federal revenue, which consists mainly of grants. And then the third is the state revenue, which we'll detail out in our slide later on. So in this presentation, we'll take a look at all three revenue sources in several different ways. So this slide shows what is budgeted versus what is actually received for fiscal year 24 and to date for fiscal year 25, and it's broken down by fund. So keep in mind that the budgets include all potential revenue, which is why the actuals can be far less than what the budget amount is. A great example of that is the HERF fund, where you see the higher budgeted amount, and then obviously less is the actuals. So the main difference you're going to see there is the grant opportunities that have been budgeted for their potential. Another thing to notice for your fiscal year 25 actual to date is some of the things are not showing on for like debt service or any of the other completed payments, because that will happen at the end of the fiscal year. One correction that I do need to make on this slide is for capital improvement fund for the FY24 actual. That should actually be a negative $1 million, so that'll change the total to $88,545,537. And I apologize, this one's tied to another slide in my Excel, so that one also needs to be adjusted for a negative as well.
Yes, sir.
The FY25 actuals for impact fees, where are we getting those from?
Those are planning review.
Okay.
So let's take a look at FY24 a little bit more, broken down by major fund. Again, this does not include all the funds, just the major ones that we're going to look at. The first column is actual revenue, while the second through the fifth columns are actual expenditures in each category, which give us an estimated end-of-year balance in these funds. And again, that CIF should be a negative $1 million on the revenue side. So for general fund, we do see that the net change is $631,000. This does include the action taken by council per the resolution 2025-013 when we did the Castle and Cook note forgiveness. So we transferred the $609,711 to the sewer fund. And then so the sewer fund revenue does include that transfer from general fund. Personnel and O&M does include allocations for the general fund, and it is reflected in also HERF and sewer and refuse. Any questions on this slide?
Yes, sir.
So that net change for capital improvement, is that minus $3,895,000, or is that number correct? The $1,044,000 is incorrect.
The correct number with the negative should be negative $4.9 million. However, we did budget carryover in CIF, but that is not reflected in the system, so I did not put it in the slide. So anything that's reflected in the system is put in the slide.
Yeah. Okay.
So FY25 budget summary by fund. This is a snapshot of where we're currently at. And these numbers are actuals to date, which is the beginning of April. However, some of the actuals to date for fiscal year 25 are going to vary a little bit depending on which day I pulled the actual information from. So sometimes it's going to be a little bit different because if it's been a week since I pulled from one slide to the next spreadsheet, it's going to show that we did make a little bit more money than we did from the other one. So we're not worried about the negative balances just yet. These don't reflect transfers on allocations. These normally are at the end of the year. And then also revenue is still coming in. So as was stated earlier, we just received February's sales tax numbers, and we'll see March's probably in the beginning of May also. And then state shared revenue, it definitely has a lag. So we're still waiting on grant reimbursements, so that accounts for all the negatives that we see so far. Any questions on this slide? Okay. So we've looked at where we've been. We looked at where we're currently at. Now let's look at fiscal year 26 revenue projections. So projections are calculated using historical trend analysis and also looking at actuals from the current year. Since we're still working on the current year, a lot of these will be adjusted as we move through the process. So city sales tax is relatively flat this year, so we're projecting just no changes at all. Property tax levy will be proposed at 0.1018 and to generate $394,973. So same as last year, value of houses are going up. We adjust the rate down so that a homeowner will pay the same in fiscal year 26 as they did in 25. The increase in the total projected revenue is to account for new construction.
Okay.
Franchise fees right now are trending down. We'll keep an eye on it. License and permitting, same thing, trending down. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. Grants right now, we're still working through the grants and the budgeting for that, so that one will definitely change as we go forward. Same thing with local government payments. That one will change also. State shared revenue, we have that separate slide for. Prop 207 revenue based on actuals. Health and accident, we're keeping level. Ambulance revenue is trending up. Public safety fees are kept level. GMC revenues right now, we're going to keep an eye on because a lot of things occur in the springtime. So we'll take a look at that again as well. Transit revenue is we don't charge for fares. This is just the lease revenue, so we're going to keep it level. Airport is trending up. Sewer and refuse, I took those from the slides that you were looking at earlier. PRL, again, a lot of things happen in the spring, so we'll probably adjust that one as well. Planning revenue, we're keeping level. Development fees, again, we're going to suspend the development fees with the rate increases for sewer and refuse, so that one we put at 0. Investment income, we kept level. Donations will be looked at with the process, so that number will change. Sale of fixed assets are kept level. Notes payable, again, will change depending on capital and everything else. Carryover will change again. And then miscellaneous revenue, that one will be looked at further as we're moving through the process.
Excellent.
So far for right now, fiscal year 26's projected revenue is about $127.5 million. Any questions on this slide?
One item. Y'all okay with extending time to just go through Delta, then we'll just go to Foxtrot and Golf?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that, Mr. Mayor.
Fine with it? I'm good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So fiscal year 25-26 revenue by major fund. This is a quick overview. Again, the FY26 numbers will be refined as we keep going through the process. So we see in the general fund an estimated decrease of 1.2 million from fiscal year 25. And then again, HERF, LTAF, airport, and grants are still being worked on, so those have been kept level for right now. You see a 45 billion decrease in HERF because we took out 2 grant opportunities. One is the RAISE and one is the BST Phase 2. That won't be sought after for fiscal year 26 just yet.
Like what? All right. Tracking.
Capital Improvements Fund, we're still working on as we work through the capital items. That'll be in your next presentation. And then debt service decreased 5,000. And then sewer and refuse, as you saw. So FY26 projections right now don't include transfers, allocations, or grant matches as of yet. That gets worked on still. Questions on this slide?
No, ma'am.
So let's take a look at the state shared revenues. So the league's preliminary numbers were received by the city by the end of March. So these numbers are based off of the U.S. Census Bureau's July 1st, 2023 population estimates and July 2024 population estimates that they use for the shared revenue distribution won't be available until late May, early June. So when the league receives those figures, they recalculate and then they resend them to us, and then we will reevaluate what the state shared revenue should look like. And then we'll compare that to the actual revenues that we received during fiscal year 25. So as we know, for fiscal year 24, they threw in a little loop where the state shared income tax distribution increased from 15% to 18% because they were trying to mitigate and offset the state's adoption of the 2.5% state income tax. So because there's a 2-year lag between when the taxes are levied and the year where they actually distribute it to us. That was hard to say. Fiscal year 24 shows the offset of $2 million, and then fiscal year 25 shows the offset of $1 million, and then we see the full effect of this in fiscal year 26. So you see the decrease in revenue for 26. So to try to mitigate the potential decrease in 27, we pulled $500,000 for one-time use in 26. So that way, in case there's a decrease, then we still are okay. Any questions on state shared? So URS is the league's projection. Sales is the league's projection. We kept her flat, and we kept VLT flat. But as I said, we will recalculate when we get the new population figures. FY26 debt projections. The fiscal year 22 bond is Schneider 1 projects. Fiscal year 24 is Schneider 2. So in FY26, we're expecting to pay $3.2 million paid out of CIF fund. The sewer, the last payment, as David said, is going to be January of fiscal year 27. And for refuse, the last year is fiscal year 26 for these payments. FY26 budget projections. So this slide gives us a good idea on what we need to focus on. This one will change with each presentation as we go along. It'll get updated with new numbers. So we'll start with fiscal year 26 revenue projections and debt. And then we have estimated fiscal year 26 personnel as of now. And then the fiscal year 26 O&M requests per department as of now. We're still going through. And then FY25's capital budget, because we haven't gone through all the capital projects yet. So this gives you an idea of what the deficit is for the major funds, which is $477,000. So we'll keep this number in mind as we move through the budget, that we need to whittle that one down. So that concludes the revenue debt presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No? Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
I'll give you some next step, though. I apologize. So April 22nd, we'll have the capital, personnel, and O&M. Then May 6th, you'll have your general fund balance budget. May 20th is all funds balance budget, and you're expected to receive your tentative budget book right before Memorial Day weekend, because I know you guys want to spend your entire holiday reading your budget book for May 23rd.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mayor McCaw, members of the council, going and watching Jen's presentation, some things, stick out that you need to be mindful of. One is the state shared revenue. Obviously, we're going to see the full effects of the income tax cut and the offset that the legislature provided, and that'll really hit us more next year. But you're seeing that really no growth in state shared revenue, and also in the state shared sales tax, primarily because of our population not growing as much as other cities, particularly in the valley. So those are two major revenue sources for us, and you're seeing those numbers flat or even losing ground. The only way to make up for that is through our own sales tax collections. And you're seeing those, as we mentioned all the time, they're flat. So you basically got your two major revenue sources flat going forward. And in the meantime, we're still facing increasing personnel costs, inflation hitting our O&M budgets. Really, the only way to offset that or balance the budget going forward, if we don't see changes in the revenue picture, would be to first start cutting back on capital projects. So you're not going to probably see as much with regards to large-scale capital projects going forward in our budgets. And then operating capital is the other next thing we have to look at. And we know we have major operating capital needs, particularly in the area of fire trucks and police vehicles and those kind of things. And we're just going to have to watch that very carefully in terms of how we budget for them, how long we keep them and maintain them going forward. So that's kind of what we see with the numbers, the way they look right now. So.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Ma'am.
Thank you.
We'll proceed on to item number D, Delta, discussion of draft FY 2026-27 Council Strategic Leadership Plan. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor McCaw and members of council. So first, an apology. This is actually your draft fiscal year 2026-2027 plan, not 25-26, as I wrote all over the plan. So that will be updated immediately before you approve it. So there aren't a lot of changes in this plan. What you see here are the new initiatives that were finalized by City Council and added into the plan, and then any new numbering, and there were 2 new priorities that were added. And once again, there's no set timeline for you to approve this strategic plan. It's final whenever there's consensus from council that it is final and you're ready to move it to a vote. So this is step 1 until you are happy with your plan as a whole. So just real quick, what was added under priority 4, your new initiative 4.1 to promote awareness of ongoing water conservation programs. New priority 6 on upgrading public facilities and utilities to enhance efficiency and reduce costs. You have new initiative 10.2 on exploring partnerships to provide low-interest loans to local entrepreneurs to foster innovation and job creation. Initiatives 14.1, 2, and 3 were renumbered. 14.3 was added on enhancing and maintaining existing park amenities for diverse recreational opportunities. Initiative 15 was added to create a phased plan to achieve the recommendations from the Fire and Medical Services Department assessment as funding permits. Then 2 new initiatives under priority 18, 18.1 on evaluating programs or engagements to teach residents about local government and to encourage involvement. 18.2 is identifying strategies to educate and engage residents on the Vista 2040 general plan components and benefits. Priority 21 was reworded to make accessing city services, resources, and information online more user-friendly. And then finally, priority 22 was added to update web content to comply with federal ADA requirements by the April 2027 deadline. I'm happy to take any and all feedback and any changes that council would like to the plan.
Thanks, Victoria. I'm interested in what the council thinks about 14.3. Should the priority be fixing current parks as opposed to building new parks? That's my question. And if our thought is that the priority should be fixing current parks, then a slight rewording would put maintain first. And so this would read maintain and enhance, not enhance and maintain. A small thing, but Laura would probably like to know what our thoughts are.
I mean, I think we've already discussed this. I mean, I don't think there's any change to what we already talked about when we made this, but like you're saying, like you don't want to create. I mean, we already have plans in the works for obviously like our 2 parks that we have coming. Fab and are you talking about Fab and?
Are you talking about Fab and Roadrunner?
And Roadrunner?
Fab and Lynn Roberts, for example.
Okay.
Do we want to get those fixed up before we build Roadrunner? That's my question.
I guess my question then is, what do you mean by fixed up? Like, what are you saying should be fixed up, or what do we?
Well, we've already said we were going to fix up Lynn Roberts.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. Fix that walking path, repair the splash pad.
Yeah. That's already in.
Those are the kind of things I'm talking about.
But you have an issue with the way it's worded?
Mm-hmm.
You just don't.
So you want maintain before enhance?
Enhance, yeah.
I don't have no issue.
I feel like that. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like maintain it. I support that rewording. I feel like if you have enhance first, it could suggest that we're wanting to enhance before we're wanting to maintain. So I think that makes sense to reword it.
Oh, it's good.
Go ahead, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mayor McCaw, members of the council, and if you'll recall, your previous 2 strategic plans were pretty aggressive on implementing the Parks Master Plan, and of course, there's quite a bit of cost associated with that. I don't necessarily disagree with slowing that down because the revenues simply don't seem to be there to support constructing a lot of new. But also keep in mind that at least for Fab and for Roadrunner, Fab, we're looking at using primarily CDBG funds to develop that, so that doesn't really hit your revenue stream. And by doing some of the maintenance out of the general fund or HERF for walking paths or capital improvements fund, I should say, this year we're going to be able to cut down, still maintain Lynn Roberts Park, but not use the CDBG funds to the extent we were originally planning. So you've got that, and then on Roadrunner, we do have some money budgeted to hopefully match grants from the state that Laura is pursuing. So if we do get those opportunities, we're prepared to do at least a phase of Roadrunner if we get those grants. If we don't, then I have a hard time recommending using that money until we do find grant funds to do that in the current environment that we're in.
So you want to switch the wording, maintain before enhance?
Just something to think about. We haven't set things in stone yet. We're still revising the strategic plan. So it's just something to think about.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions, discussion items?
Just the process. I mean, I want to thank the staff for being there the day before we did to do all the work and that they did. And then we showed up and threw a monkey wrench and everything. No, just kidding. We didn't do that, but we appreciated the work that they did, and obviously liked what we saw and just made our own touches and additions and deletions as we saw fit as a council. So it was a good process. Thank you, Councilwoman Jackson, for all the snacks that you brought. It was really, we can't work without food, so she hooked us up. Thank you for that, and for Fire Station 3 for hosting us at the facility and providing fire station coffee.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed the process. This is, out of all of the strategic plans I participated in, I felt like this one went really smooth, and it didn't take as long, and I appreciate that. We all came to a consensus one way or another. I remember mentioning the one issue under Initiative 15, only because we've had studies in the past that didn't, the studies are supposed to serve to inform us, and this one has made its way into our strategic plan, which is the vision of this council, and so while we want to implement, we want to make sure that our fire and medical services is fully funded. I think it's an odd placement for this, because we have this whole process where the department heads at budget time meet with Victoria and Chuck, or just Victoria, and go over the priorities, what we have funding for. We're gonna fund what we can anyway, and this is a 2-year strategic plan, and that study identified a lot more needs than what can be met in 2 years. So there's just those, you know, because we had, like, most recently, I think, the study for transit that we didn't implement because needs changed over time. Like, we didn't implement the updated pay machines on the buses, and that was just one of like 5 or 6 points that they came up with in the study. And now it's free to ride transit, so good thing we didn't implement the study. But yeah, that's just a little thing. I'm okay if the council wants to keep it in there. Obviously, I support funding them. I just think it's a weird placement for what this serves.
Mayor
Yes,
McCaw,
ma'am.
Mayor Pro Tem Humphrey, it may work better under the next initiative, under Priority 16. Then it's combined with where the transit master plan is mentioned, and then it's not a master plan, but it was a needs assessment. And it speaks more to levels of service than it does properly staffing. So that could be moved and become initiative 16.2.
I would agree with that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to apologize for not being there on Friday, but reading the plan that we have and that y'all came up with, it's very thought out and very put together. So, thank you. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
That's it. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Scarborough. So we'll skip item number E, go to reports on recent trips and meetings, future meetings. Yes, ma'am.
The Transportation Commission met last week. Definitely go online, check it out. It's recorded and everything if you're curious about what happened. The next meeting will be May the 7th upstairs in the council, in the conference room, so just so everybody's aware.
Any others? All right. Go to item number 12, future discussion items and council requests, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor McCaw. Currently, I'm tracking one presentation for you, and that's what Ms. Delahaye already mentioned. It's the capital, personnel, and O&M budget presentation.
Excellent. Any other comments, discussion items? We will see you on Thursday. We are adjourned.